Zeta, who's always been so sweet, so friendly with everybody, Zeta gets in front of me, puffs up her chest, and starts barking at him.
Dog people, thank you for coming back to Rescued by a Dog, the podcast about dogs that have actually saved their owners' lives. I'm Laura, as always, hosted the podcast, and today a donor has sponsored this podcast episode in honor of Tipton County Animal Shelter, which works to save the lives of Tennessee's animals. They're able to transport fur babies to other states, so no matter where you are, you can check out Tipton County's available dogs and kitties on their Facebook page, Tipton County Animal Shelter. Now you're going to hear a heartbreaking but uplifting story from Ashley, whose dog Zeda saved her from an abusive relationship. A trigger warning, this episode does contain discussions of domestic violence against Ashley, though Ashley and Zeda are now happy and thriving. Hello? Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Hi, Zeda.
Oh, girl. She's snoozing, so she's snoring.
She is beautiful. Let's talk about your dog. Tell me, Ashley, what is your dog's name and what do they look like?
So my dog's name is Zeta. She's like a reddish cream colored. She used to have these green eyes, but now they're honey colored and they match her fur. She is about 60 pounds. She is, the shelter had said she's a pit bull. I did DNA test her. She's 100% American Staffordshire Terrier. And now she's 13. So I've had her entire life since she was 2 months old. So this starts when I moved to Texas. So I moved to Texas in 2010 and I only knew my mom and my sister. So I ended up going to the shelter and I was just like looking and I see this little reddish cream colored. She was so little. I mean, maybe the size of my forearm. Pit bull. Her ears, they touched together and they were big, like a bow. They looked like a bow. It was so cute. She reminded me of Minnie Mouse, how Minnie Mouse has that big old bow. And she was just wagging her tail. Her eyes were this green and she's just all wide-eyed. And despite her situation being in this shelter where it's stressful, she is just acting like she's in heaven. I mean, she is just so happy. The shelter told me, they said, well, we're planning to euthanize her tomorrow. She's too hyper, so no one's adopting her. People look at her, but they don't want to adopt her. And I was like, what? This sweet thing? Like, she's so sweet. And they also said they actually originally ended up with her because they had a mandatory hold on her for some animal abuse situation that happened with her and some other pit bulls. So she was part of like a criminal investigation, but that was over and, no one was adopting her. So she was a 2-month-old little pit bull puppy in the shelter. I mean, she came out, like I asked to meet her and she just came out darting to me, loving on me, licking on me. She was the sweetest thing. So, I mean, I took her home. She was my first puppy. I didn't know what I was doing really. I was in school and I was working part-time. So I was actually in school doing my nursing prereqs. And I was trying to juggle my life and this puppy. And I almost got rid of her like 3 times. I did offer to her a couple of people I knew. And they were like, no, thank you. She's too hyper. And thank goodness they didn't take her. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, knowing what I know now, she was actually a pretty easy puppy. She was so eager to learn and train. So when I would study, what I ended up doing was taking her to dog parks. But I used to just study at the dog park, let her run around and play, so we could actually study. I ended up having to pick up hiking. I would go swimming, jogging. I wasn't a jogger, became a jogger. We did everything together. I would take her in my car, let her hang out in my car when I would go do groceries. She loved doing that. She was happy immediately. Yeah. She's happy in any situation. You can take her anywhere, literally anywhere. I put a dog bed next to my bed and I thought I'd teach her to sleep there. Well, she was not having it. And she put her little legs up on the bed and she was crying. And I said, no, no, your bed. And I thought, I'm going to go to sleep. She'll eventually go to her bed. She'll figure this out. I woke up 2 hours later to her still crying in that same position, her legs still up on the bed. So come on, get in the bed. She sleeps in the bed ever since. Oh, she loves people. So, like, people always say, oh, I want the perfect dog. I want a people-friendly dog, one that likes animals, one that likes everything. I was super fortunate to get a dog, a puppy dog that is like that. She was so sweet. She one day started bringing me one by one, gently, little baby birds, little baby cardinals that had fallen out of their nest. And I was able to get them back unharmed to their mother, and they grew up and they were in our backyard and flew off. So I can't, like, it hurts me so bad when I hear that whole, how people judge, because she's absolutely the perfect dog, just not maybe in the look that people want. With the whole pit bull thing, and the whole stigma of being like misunderstood, I felt like I could relate to that heavily, because I'm essentially half Irish, half Persian, and my dad was an immigrant from Iran, and my mom's from Texas. There was a lot of clashing when I was growing up, culture clashing, and I did not fit in anywhere. Like, as a kid, with like typical white Americans, and then I wouldn't fit in with the Persians either. I didn't speak enough Farsi. I wasn't here nor there. So I always felt like an outcast. And also, I found out as an adult I was diagnosed as being neurodivergent. So I was awkward as a kid since I was a kid, and I identified with animals. So I used to rehab little animals, and I felt like animals they're just not judgmental. They are appreciative. You can see appreciation even in wild animals that I would help rehab as a child. I knew the appreciation there that I didn't see in people. And so with Zeta and her whole stigma, I felt like we were kind of the two outcasts together, that didn't want to be outcasts. Oh man. So this part's very emotional for me. She's done everything for me. I honestly don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for her. In 2012 is when I met, I'm going to call him Raul. I met him through a mutual friend of ours. He was like this tall, dark, handsome guy. He had like a football build, big guy. And I'm 5'2", and at the time I was 110 pounds. So I really appreciated the bigness, the size difference. I thought he looked really cool, and he seemed really romantic and sweet. But I realized as time was going on, he would, like, after a couple months, he would like pinch me like on my arm, and he would do it. I remember one time he did it when we were playing basketball. Like, I was learning how to play basketball, and I guess I didn't throw it right or something, and he pinched me. It hurt really bad. And I remember looking and seeing blood, and I ended up confronting him later on about it. And he said, what are you talking about? I didn't do it that hard. I care about you. He just made it seem like nothing, but those nothings turned into more somethings. The thing is with like abusers, they always tend to kind of start small and keep getting bigger as time goes on, and get worse. So I did notice he did like to drink a lot. And then I remember one time when he was drunk, he ended up pinning me and choking me when he found out I made a friend at school who was a guy. And he had choked me for a few seconds and let go of me. It was like to prove a point. I guess it was to prove a point. We argued a lot.
I wanted to ask if Zeta was ever there.
She didn't like it. I know that. She would usually kind of like walk away or kind of stay near, but not too close. I mean, he was a big guy. He was huge. I mean, tall, nearly 6 foot. And he was just mean. Whew. And what's crazy is they even tried to help him once. So one time we were hiking, he went with me and Zeta, and we were hiking through some water. And I was up ahead with Zeta, and Zeta all of a sudden stops. She's not going forward. And I said, Zeta, come on. And she's looking at me. No, she would not come forward. And she starts turning back around to go the opposite direction. So I'm like, well, okay. So I follow her backwards, and we found Raul passed out on the ground.
What had
What
happened?
ended up happening was a stick went in his ear and like pierced the eardrum or something and caused like, I guess, I don't know, extreme vertigo, but he passed out. So she was telling me, Mom, he needs help. She went to tell me that. And now I think back and I'm like, did he ever pinch her ears when I wasn't looking, to make a point? Because she wouldn't really go up to him. And see, she would go up to everybody, but she wouldn't really go up to him much. And the thing is, with all of this abuse, you don't really talk to people about it. It's embarrassing, and you also love the person. When I did try to talk to people about what was happening, the responses I would get would be like, "Why don't you just leave?" Or "What did you do to deserve that?" That was another thing. But the answer is never as easy as just leaving. I mean, there's so many things that go into it, complex emotions. When you're in that cycle, it's a very emotional roller coaster. In a way, your body gets addicted to it. It's not easy. And domestic violence victims usually always go back to their abuser. I felt really trapped where I was at in life. And but I knew I had to keep going for her. Like, she's the sweet dog. She relies on me. And shortly after that, we broke up. But that breakup was the first of many breakups with him. This just continued on. Now, the problem is when you get into domestic violence and this whole cycle, if you start dating other people, you tend to keep attracting that same kind of energy and person. And so I did date another guy when Raul and I were broken up. And Raul found out, and he showed up at my job. He was begging me to take him back, kept showing up everywhere that he could, begging me to take him back. And I was like, no, I'm with this other guy. I'm not getting back with you. Well, the other guy had issues. He was a bit older than me at that time. And that guy, I can't even tell you why he did what he did. I had my red flags. I had all of that, but I had already been through so much. I don't even think red flags over my head. One day I went into his apartment, and this guy's eyes were black. Like, I can't even describe it. Like, other than that, there was like a demon in this guy. He pinned me down, choked me on the bed. I thought I was gonna die. It was longer than when Raul choked me. I thought I was gonna die. And I remember thinking, like, I hope that my, family can find my body, And but then luckily he ended up picking me up, and he threw me out of his apartment. I did not go back there. I ended up going to Raul. I thought, oh, Raul looks like an angel compared to this guy. Like, maybe I should have been back with Raul in the first place. Raul told me how much he loved me, and he won't pinch me again. He won't choke me again. So get back with him. So I go to Raul and I tell him what happened with the other guy. He told me that he should have finished me. I remember crying and just going home, holding Zeta, cuddling in bed with her, and she just had her little neck on my neck, and we were just snuggled up together. And she just brought me so much comfort. And She didn't judge me no matter what. I know that she loved me. So by the time this was happening, I was in the nursing program. I went to try to go to clinicals with like the bruises that were on my neck, and I had to cover them up as best as I could. The problem wasn't so much the physical aspect of it; it was the more of the mental. So I think about 30 minutes into my clinicals, I told the teacher that I needed to leave, that I just wasn't feeling well. And I just remember going back home, cuddling up with Zeta and crying. And then she and I went for a hike together and just had like a peaceful time together. Zeta could actually sense my emotions. Like she knew when I was upset and when I was hurting. She would seek me out. She'd lift up my arm. She'd nudge my arm with her head, and she'd get under me and cuddle up on me. So after he ended up saying he was sorry for saying the whole thing of like, he should have finished you. He ended up apologizing for that, saying, I was just upset because you didn't choose me to begin with. You should have chosen me. If you had chosen me to begin with, I would have never said that. So, like I said, I ended up getting back with him. But the final breaking point was when I was about to graduate nursing school. Raul and I were at the store, and he ended up spraying Axe into my eyes. Like, I thought we were having a good day. The thing is, like, I feel like with abusers, it seems like every good day ends up turning sour. Like, they can't stand you being happy for a day. And he sprayed Axe in my eyes, like, unprompted. Like, I was just looking at something, and I turned around, and he had sprayed Axe in my eyes. And whenever I was like, why did you do that? Oh, I didn't do anything. I mean, it would always be like that. I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? We ended up going home after the store, and we're fighting about it. We're arguing about it. And the bedroom, and Zeta, who's always been so sweet, so friendly with everybody, Zeta gets in front of me, puffs up her chest, and starts barking at him. She was saying enough, you know? She had enough. She's saying like, Mom, this is enough. Like, this should be it. He ended up pinching her ears. He grabbed her ears, pinched them, and he's like, what are you going to do? Looking at her, and drags her out of the room, closes the door, and she's trying to get back in the room. And she's never acted like this before. So she was telling me, you know, this was enough. And I remember raising my voice and screaming more, like, you know, don't touch her, like, get away from my dog, that's my dog. Then he told me, you know, I know you love that dog so much. If I really wanted to mess with you, I would just tie you up and skin your dog alive in front of you. For me, like, I couldn't imagine something worse than hurting Zeta. And he knew that. Like, my physical boundaries had already been violated, my mental security had already been shattered. But like, the one unconditional safe place that I had was Zeta. So she helped me find that breaking point. And she was literally, she just told me, Mom, this is enough. That's enough. And at that point, I started distancing myself emotionally and physically from Raul as much as I could. And I know I needed to get out. The good thing is, eventually Raul did stop showing up. He stopped showing up. And for a long time, though, I was paranoid because he would just show up. So, but he did. He stopped showing up and was out of my life. Thank goodness. And I got to finally calm down after some time and do some self-healing. So thanks to Zeta, I ended up graduating nursing school. And when I graduated, I know some of the other girls thought like I was crazy, but when I graduated, I had a picture of Zeta dressed as a nurse on my cap with a quote from the Dalai Lama that says, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. And I felt like Zeda is the total embodiment of that. One day we were fostering this Jack Russell Terrier. And for some reason, every time I left the house and came back, the dog would be out. I would crate him and come back and he'd be out free running around. And this happened multiple times and I kept wondering, this Jack Russell, how is he getting out of his crate? And so one day I pretend to leave. I close the door and I peek around the corner and I see Zeda go up to the crate and she unlatches it using her teeth and her nose and lets him out so they could play together. And you know what's funny is she didn't do this for all the foster dogs, only her favorites. I guess in 2018, I met my now fiance, and thank goodness he wasn't any of the types from before. He's such an amazing partner. He loves my weirdness and awkwardness. Raul used to say that no one would like my awkwardness or weirdness. No, my fiance loves all my weirdness, awkwardness, all of that. He's so kind and so giving, and he spoils Zeda. Zeda will go out of her way to like seek him out in particular. She just loves him. One time we were hiking and we had found these blue bonnets, and we just kind of ran throughout the field and we were in the moment together, having a wonderful time, and we took pictures together, and she's just laying up next to me in one of the pictures, cuddled up next to me, and we just laid there in sun together, and it was just we got to do our favorite things that day, hiking, swimming, and then laying in the sun together. That was one of my favorite days.
If Zeda could understand human English, what would you like to say to her?
Ooh. Thank you so much, Zeda, for proving that unconditional love exists and providing that love for me during the loneliest time of my life. Thank you for being an amazing friend and a wonderful unofficial therapist. You're my forever girl. And thank you for saving my life.